Welcome to today's Parks Alliance Read Along. Today, we are reporting live from the Philadelphia Waterworks. And if you want to know why, we'll find out in just a second when we bring our guest on. And first, though, I wanted to tell you about some exciting things that happened yesterday, but we're really getting some great momentum for a letter that we're asking organizations to sign on, an open letter asking for the Philadelphia to continue to support, asking City Council to continue to support with funding the essential services that Philadelphia Parks and Rec provides. But now I'm going to bring on my colleague, Jack Ewart, who's going to talk a bit more about that. Now, first, tell me why am I reporting live from the Waterworks?
I actually work at the Waterworks as well as working with the Parks Alliance. I'm an environmental educator for the water department, and I'm hosted there. I also go to a few other places like the Discovery Center in Strawberry Mansion I'm able to go to, but I work at the Waterworks most of the time teaching kids about the history of water in our city.
That is really cool. Well, I want to hear a lot more about that. I want to hear more about the Discovery Center too. But first, we'll ask after the reading. We'll definitely want to talk some more about that. But first, let's talk about what is going on with the Parks Alliance and what we've been doing, what we've been promoting, how we've been working with other partners. So what I'm going to do is bring up our website, which is philaparks.org. And if you could tell me a bit more about what people will find there and what kinds of actions they can take.
So this week we've been talking a lot about the budget that's released by City Council, and then there's been people have been giving testimony this week about the budget, and Parks and Rec took a big hit in that budget. I believe it was around 20% of the funding for Parks and Rec was lost. And so on our website you can find the phone numbers for City Council members, and you can give them a call. And even if it's just leaving a voicemail or talking to someone who works with them, to just let them know how important these things are, because we understand at the Parks Alliance that parks and recreation and things like this are going to really be important to restoring normalcy to our city at some point this summer, whenever that is, or into the future. But parks and rec are extremely essential, and we need to make sure they're properly funded so that when Philadelphia is ready to reopen, everyone is able to take full advantage, and our students and part-time workers and parents all have that ability to use their rec centers fully.
Well, that is great. And again, go to philaparks.org and find out more information. And as always, we want to hear what neighborhood you're watching from here. And so give us a shout out in the comments. We have someone you might know here.
That's my mom. Yep.
There you go. That's great. My mom was watching yesterday when I was reading too. So that's awesome. Great for supportive moms. And that is awesome. So we're going to go and continue this on here. And we're going to, I think we know who this is too.
Hi, Lula.
Hi, Lula. And that is our campaign director, Lula, who's taking the day off and giving us a chance to do this today. So that is great. So we are going to start this reading in just a moment. And let me go back to just give you the option of seeing where you can find us in social media. Just remember philaparks.org, not philapark.org, because then you'll end up at the parking authority. And we hope you don't have to end up there. So, and nothing against the parking authority, but people would rather end up at the Parks Alliance, I'm sure. So I'm going to take myself off the screen, give you the stage. And I forgot to ask, what are you reading today?
The book I'm reading today is Made by Maxine by Ruth Spiro.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to learning more about that. Enjoy.
Made by Maxine by Ruth Spiro. I chose this book because I think it's really relevant for our current situation. It's all about a little girl who repurposes around her house to build new things, which could really be useful these days with people getting bored at this point, but trying to be safe. Meet Maxine. She likes making new things from old things. She deconstructs and reconstructs, unscrews and re-glues. Maxine makes everything better. Meet Milton. From the day Maxine spotted him in the pet shop window, she was hooked. His scales shimmered, his fins fluttered. Was he waving to her? Since he was a fish, it was hard to tell. Maxine fell in love with Milton. He was a special fish and deserved a better home than a boring glass bowl. If I can dream it, I can make it, she said. And then she did. First, she tinkered with some old toys and made a spectacular tank. Next, she repurposed a broken bike and made a pedal-powered fish feeder. For a final touch, Maxine repurposed some vegetables and made music. Being a fish, he wasn't much of a dancer, but Milton wiggled his fins to the beat, practicing his slick moves. One day at school, Miss McMiller made an exciting announcement. This week, we'll have a class pet parade, she said. We'll meet on the playground after school and then march around the building. If you don't have a pet at home, you may borrow one from our classroom. I'll bring Mittens, my kitten, said one student. I'll bring Felix, my ferret, said another. I'll bring Milton, my goldfish, said Maxine. It's a pet parade, not a wet parade, said a classmate. A goldfish can't march. He doesn't have feet, said another. Milton is a very special fish, she replied. You'll see. At home, Maxine told Milton about the pet parade. He bubbled with excitement. Being a fish, he didn't get out much. It's okay if you don't have feet, Maxine said. Fins are perfectly fine. No, they're better than fine. They're fabulous. But Milton's spectacular tank was also spectacularly heavy. Maxine moved Milton into his old bowl. It was boring, but easier to carry. This is only temporary, she reassured him. Then they practiced marching. Splish, splosh, splish. I feel seasick, said Milton. Maxine's enthusiasm was dampened, along with her sneakers. We need to make this bowl better, said Maxine. She collected containers from all around the house. Maxine fitted and filled, fixed and fiddled, and failed. Maybe this isn't such a good idea. Maybe I should borrow the class hamster instead. Was Milton crying? Since he was a fish, it was hard to tell. As the big day approached, the pet parade was all anyone could talk about. I brushed Mittens, so she's extra fluffy. I made Felix a new sparkly collar. Maxine thought about Milton. With his shimmering scales and fluttery fins, he was beautiful and funny and smart and talented, and he was her friend. Sorry, hamster, I'm marching with Milton. After school, Maxine picked up her pencils and paper and planned her project. She had already discovered a million ways that would not work, which meant she was getting closer to finding a way that would. She repurposed a race car, she upcycled an umbrella, and reprogrammed an old remote. All afternoon, she deconstructed and reconstructed, unscrewed and re-glued. She tinkered and hacked, bent parts forward and back. Maxine made a music playing, fin wiggling, wave sensing, wheel spinning, dance powered, fintastic, fintabulous, fincredible, fishmobile, pet parade, float. Meet Milton, said Maxine, my very special fish. He's dancing and driving. Watch your feet coming through, said Milton. Miss McMiller complimented Milton on being the best behaved pet of all. Was he blushing? Since he was a fish, it was hard to tell. She also complimented Maxine on finding a way to include Milton. If I can dream it, I can make it, Maxine said, and she did. The end.
That was awesome. Thank you, Jack. That was really a very, very fun one. I'm going to want to reread that one myself. That was very cool.
Yeah, I think it's also really relevant. You know, we're all trying to be safe and staying in the house as much as possible. And, you know, if you can upcycle an old umbrella or repurpose an old box, there's a lot of fun you can actually have around the house without having to put others in danger or really yourself.
That's really cool. And we've shared a bunch of tips of things that you've picked up and you've found and put together for us that have been some great stuff to do around the house. And also, you know, if you're out in parks, safely doing things around the parks, like the nature rubbing there, be able to rub a tree bark or you know, a rock or something, and getting kind of fun art with that, as well as learning about textures of nature, which is really cool. But that's very tied in with the other work you do, is it not?
Yeah.
But tell me more about that.
Yeah, so like I said before, I work as an educator for the Fairmount Waterworks through the water department. So I work in that beautiful building you're sitting in front of. And in that basement, many people don't know, there's actually a free museum about the history of water in Philadelphia. Philadelphia had was the first city to take it as their own responsibility to give its people water. We were the first place to do it, and it happened right inside that building. So people can come today and learn all about that history. There's cool videos and stuff like that, fun interactive exhibits. We call it an interpretive center because it's something we want people to be interacting with. So you touch, you play, you learn. There's also something we do that's really cool. We have a freshwater mussel hatchery. So our mussel hatchery was one of the first in the country, focused not on helping endangered species, but helping water restoration. So our Schuylkill River, our Schuylkill River in Philadelphia used to be filled with thousands and thousands of mussels, and that's why it was so clean that we actually used to drink straight out of it when people were drinking from that building. Which crazy thing to think of when you think of the Schuylkill River, but the mussels were the reason they were able to do so. One freshwater mussel can actually filter 10 to 20 gallons of water a day. So they're really powerful.
One little mussel, one of regular size mussel.
One regular mussel. And in the Waterworks, we grow a couple thousand every year. And so the goal is in 10 years, because they actually also live the same lifespan as humans. They live up to 100 years old. So they have to essentially mature just like we do. But the goal is in the next couple of years to put hundreds of thousands of mussels back into our rivers and waterways in Philadelphia to restore our waters.
That is pretty amazing. And I used to live just a few hundred yards from that building. So I did have a chance to go to it a lot of time. It really is one of Philadelphia's hidden gems, but it's more of like one of Philadelphia's hidden mineral encrusted rocks.
Yeah, it's
mussel encrusted.
Mussel encrusted. Yeah, it really is. I mean, until I worked there, I started working there when I was a student at Temple University through a fellowship from the Alliance for Watershed Education. And I had biked by that. I mean, it's right on the Schuylkill River Trail. There's people around there all the time. You're right below the art museum. There's people near the Rocky statue. I had biked by it hundreds of times and had no clue that there was something there. And got a job opportunity there. And my job interview was there, and I was lost getting in because I didn't know which of the many old doors was the actual entrance. So I really connected with it. Again, it's free, which I'm from Washington, D.C. I grew up near the Smithsonian museums. Being free means a lot. It gives access to everyone, which is so important. It's things like this everyone should be able to learn about the history of their city and the history of water, especially. Water is so important. And I mean, it's a free opportunity for everyone. I teach mostly students, come on field trips usually, not this summer, but usually in the summer. Summer camps are coming a lot where we try to make it more fun. So we make it a really interesting experience, not just a tour in history, which as a third grader or a second grader can be a little boring, understandably. So we try to make it something where you can touch, you can see mussels, you can touch mussels, you can smell the food they eat. You can go outside to these old, the Fairmount Dam, which was built because of this system. So that dam that everyone has seen was built to direct water into the building. And so that's what I love. I love the ability to bring this resource to everyone else in the city. Well,
speaking of other resources you know about and can tell us some more about, tell us about the Discovery Center, which is even more of an open space outdoors. Obviously, the Discovery Center, the Interpretive Center is a fantastic place to be able to go when that will be open again and just to learn into there. But now, and it's also it's connected to all those great open spaces. But what about the great open spaces of the Discovery Center? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Audubon Discovery Center, it's run by a partnership of two groups. So Audubon, PA, who are the birders essentially of Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia's Outward Bound is also housed there. So they are sharing that space. We also at the Waterworks do work there. So what we do up there these days, well, not these days, in normal times, what we do up there is we have 5 different middle schools, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade classes that we work with. And each of these schools actually has their own basket of 50 mussels that is housed at the Discovery Center. So they float in the water there. So they're young mussels. And every month when we were in school, these students were coming back. We were pulling them out. We were measuring our mussels. We were doing stuff with growth rates, mortality rates, things like that, and learning just about how our mussels work, while also being able to do science for our scientists at the Waterworks, because we were figuring out how it will react in this water. The Discovery Center used to be a reservoir, and it was shut down in the 70s and sat dormant. So it was just water that's been untouched. Water doesn't go in. No water's pumped in and no water's pumped out. The only way water gets in is by rain, or I guess someone who works there spilling a drink. There's really no other way, a little runoff, and there's not even much runoff there. So the water source is pristine, essentially. It's so clean because there's little human interaction. It's not a place. It's a place where people can go and walk. I believe on Thursdays. I don't know about these days, obviously. Usually on Thursdays, it's an open space because there's walking trails around it,
Right.
Around the old reservoir. But it's a really beautiful place, and it's in a beautiful spot like Strawberry Mansion, where it's there's not always access to green space and beautiful spaces like that. And it's really important that it can be there in that community to give everyone access. And they do an amazing job of reaching out to the community. They host events there for community meetings and things like that. And it's really amazing.
I've only been there a few times, but I've just to look around. I haven't been to any programs there. It is amazing. I didn't know that the reservoir itself had been closed since the 70s.
Yep.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it was closed in the 70s, and the plan was to put fields like on the other end of the park down near Mander Playground, where there's where there's baseball fields.
33rd and Diamond, right? That Mander Playground. Yeah, okay.
Yep. So
that is great. One of those wonderful rec centers that we look forward to having back soon. Well, Jack, if I could ask you if you could come back after the broadcast and drop in links to some of those, to the Interpretive Center, the Discovery Center, and the partners there, that'd be great. So when people are coming back to watch the video, they'll be able to know how to find out even more about that. So I think this has been amazing. What a cool book, and what some great information for here there. And we are going to say goodbye for today. And we will be back tomorrow with our intern, Sarah Chester, and we'll find out what book that she will be reading. So have a fantastic day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.